I'm 17 years old. My age group is the newest age group to finish high school and be forced to make the decision on what it is we want to do with the rest of our lives. As you may be able to tell from the accent, I'm Aussie, and the way that our school system works is that the separation date of grades is in July, meaning that if you were born in January to June, you would be put in a grade with the kids from the previous year who were born in July to December. Consequently, when we graduate in November, most of us are still 17, and by the time uni starts in February, the unlucky few, including me, are still that age. So we're essentially locked into our future career before we can legally have a sip of 4x. Compare this to Europe, where most people who graduate are 18 or 19, and I know it's only a year's difference, but they're at least legally recognised adults by the time this monumental decision rolls around. Obviously, uni isn't the only way to go, and in Australia, a trade is actually a really good option. Straight out of school, some kids are making enough to buy a video game console in Australia. But for me at least, I'm too much of a pussy to stand in the Aussie sun all day, so off to uni I went.
I love universe. Please subscribe.
It was quite jarring for me when, instead of just hopping straight into the content, every point of every lesson of every unit was about AI. How we are never to use it, and how, even just to generate ideas, it would be a breach of academic integrity to cheat using this new magic tool that has been developed. And it got me thinking, does AI literally just have all the answers to every single question I have related to my degree? Surely, if they're going through this much trouble to deter us from using AI, it must be a viable way of cheating that people have consistently used before. I'm currently studying a double degree in law and biomedical science, so imagine my surprise when, upon learning something like DNA synthesis, the bottom of each PowerPoint slide would feature the red text, "The use of AI, even as an idea generation tool, is prohibited." It continued like this, with virtual banners plastered all over the university's website, with the teachers reminding us at the start of every activity not to turn to AI, and with a huge red warning dead center on the task sheet of my first assessment piece. Inadvertently, this constant reminder of the enemy, which is apparently AI, had me thinking about it way more than I would have normally. With how much they were hawking on about the consequences we would face if we were caught using it, it really did make it feel like this was some crazy loophole that had been discovered. Something that held all the answers, a personal expert that we were free to have a personal consultation with anytime. Then it dawned on me. Why do we need lawyers if they have this database? This amalgamation of all the greatest lawyers and their findings smushed into one being that could be freely accessed but just typing in a URL. And I'm pretty sure the answer to that is an uncomfortable one. They don't. Or they won't, at least. ChatGPT and other language tools are often abused for their ability to complete rudimentary tasks without as much as a squeak of complaint. In just the area of law, instead of reading multiple 100-page cases from 150 years ago per week, you could humbly ask the gracious ChatGPT to summarize the key findings of each case. Things like this don't just save time, but it also allows the efforts of those who are studying the areas to focus our attention on the actual physical skills, which demand copious amounts of time that just aren't available if the extra mundane tasks had to be completed methodically. And that's just law. I imagine that once AI learns how to use Excel, business students won't have anything to do except for obnoxious virtue signaling. But why is this a problem? If AI actually does take over every single mundane job that has been plaguing the human race, wouldn't that free us all up to live a life free from the burden of work? Wouldn't we live a life of complete pleasure in some ideal utopia? You know what, I'd have to say probably not. There are a few needlessly greedy people that apparently have an insatiable appetite to consume as much of the working class's hard-earned fruits. And somehow, I don't see them just disappearing. No, I'm pretty sure no matter what miracle technology is created, that 1% will always find a way to keep the 99% sweating. So that means that if one job gets completely overrun with AI, it'll be up to the ex-workers of that field to simply move on. Tough luck, buddy. Should have studied a trade. What will this do to the work field? I don't know. I'm just a kid. That means that me, as well as thousands of other teens and young adults around the world, are currently fighting tooth and nail to learn all of these skills that will most likely become redundant by the time we're eligible to go into the workforce. I know I'm not the only one who's made this realization too. Every member of one of my group projects make offhand comments like, "So what's even the point then?" whenever the power of AI is brought up by teachers. So this means that consciously, me and many others are blindly working our way up to a goal that we know will most likely not be there by the time we reach it. Is it stupidity? Why don't we just give up and put our efforts into something that we concretely know will never be overtaken by the machine? I think the answer is willful ignorance. Although we know about this jobless future that we may all face, we ignore all of the factors going against us and desperately cling on to any sign that the future may not come to fruition. One of my tutors, who is a PhD student currently studying the relationship between AI and law, confidently claims that AI will never be able to replace humans in the field of law, as the interpretation and implementation of law is something that requires a uniquely human way of thinking. I have to admit, this single line has kept me going throughout my studies. Another interesting point that he raises is that AI can't actually think for itself, but instead it draws relevant information from all the data that has been publicized throughout history and conjures a comprehensive sentence based off of that. This means that if a legal problem were to be presented to an AI software, it would simply methodically run through thousands of previous cases and create a decision based off the previous findings of each case. This, however, introduces the largest flaw of AI tools. They themselves are susceptible to all of the biases and prejudices that exist in humanity's past. Think of it like this. If AI is given a case where the defendant is a part of a particular group that has faced prejudice, the AI program will analyze similar cases from the past 100 years, each with prejudices and biases attached, and spit out a decision that reeks of the past. If you have a database that is built off the thoughts of old white men, you're going to get a program that thinks like an old white man. This has been demonstrated in the development of predictive policing technology. When officers in over-policed neighborhoods record new offenses, a feedback loop is created, whereby the algorithm generates increasingly biased predictions targeting these neighborhoods. In short, bias from the past leads to bias in the future. Okay, so clearly, until they've got this whole potentially racist incel red pill AI thing sorted, law students can rest easy knowing that they've got a job for the next few years. For progression to be made, at least in the field of law, the human ability to create and accept new norms is essential. So until AI can do that, we're good. I'm not sure if the same can be said for business students though. However, once that problem is fixed, unless legislation prevents it, there really won't be a need for flesh lawyers anymore. They're prone to mistakes, and also who in their right mind would pay all that money when ChatGPT could do it for free? On the other end of my studies, biomedical science, I think I'm safe for a little while longer. I ask it questions about certain parts of the body and it just starts making up names, so if it can't even get that right, I think the medical field is safe. In conclusion, with the future of almost every single field being uncertain with the advancement of AI, all we can really do is just carry on and hope for the best. Hopefully the government just kind of doesn't let AI take the jobs of humans, or hopefully the zombies just come and wipe us all out. Either way, all we can do is wait. Or get a trade. Bye bye.